Jamie started a three-part series that you can see on CBCNews.ca, taking a look at the offshore gambling industry. And I didn't realize $4 billion, that's big business, Jamie.
Heather, this is massive. It's one of those things that, you place the odd bet yourself and you start wondering, how big is this? You see all of these websites that are out there advertising on various sports sites, and it is a big business. As you mentioned, $4 billion Canadians are gambling through these offshore sports books, Heather. This isn't through the traditional provincial lotteries. This is money that's being sent to these offshore sports books, many of them located in some of these familiar locales that we heard about recently during the Panama Papers news, Isle of Man, Gibraltar, Antigua, some of them in the UK. Some of the biggest sites, one of the biggest sites hosted right here by the Mohawk Nation on their land just outside of Montreal. So this is a huge business, $4 billion. That's just the estimate flowing out of this country, none of it doing any benefit to Canadians other than those gamblers who happen to be winning some bets.
Yeah, if there's a payoff there. So the end result is similar to what we talked about in the Panama Papers. These are governments deprived of revenues, or people deprived of revenues that aren't going back into the country's coffers.
Think of it like this, Heather. Years ago, when there was none of the big U.S. retail stores here in Toronto, you used to go down to the States to go find those stores that you wanted to. And that's where gamblers are going to, who want the ability, number one, to bet on a single game, which is something that you legally can't do in Canada. And they're looking for odds and options to bet on different kind of sports that the provincial lotteries simply don't offer. So this is something that's happening in Canada. They say it's happening in a legal gray area, which basically, without getting too into it, nobody has been prosecuted for this. No website offshore has been prosecuted for offering bets to Canadians. No Canadian gamblers have been prosecuted for placing a bet. So you have these huge entities set up in these countries, let's say collecting, one of the bigger sports books, $300 to $500 million a year, no income tax paid to the Canadian government by that company. And the real issue is, this is $4 billion that Canadians want to gamble on sports. It's happening. And a lot of people are saying, in Ottawa and in the gambling community, why not set up the landscape here in Canada so that people can make those bets through those provincial lottery agencies, and let's put some of those billions of dollars to work here in Canada.
Well, there's no doubt. Among our morning team, we were talking when the subject came up this morning, they were saying, well, you can't bet on one event. As you said, you don't get very good odds, as you said. So these are disincentives, but there's push to change things, isn't there?
There is a push. There's a bill by an NDP MP, Brian Massey, and basically it's a private member's bill. Those are long shots at the best of times. At first reading, the Liberals seem tepid on supporting it. But Heather, in a nutshell, here's what it would do. It would offer Canadians the ability to do what thousands of us do, bet on the Super Bowl with friends. And if you wanted to do that through your provincial lottery agency, that's what this bill would do. Offer the ability for people to bet on single games, and hopefully when they win those bets, giving them the same odds, the same payouts that they're getting on some of these offshore websites. And and you speak to people, a cross-section of people, everywhere from gamblers to some of the big casino players, and they say, listen, this is not like if we put a law in place that said, you can't do it, it would stop. This is billions of dollars that's flowing offshore. Let's keep some of that money here, through the provincial lottery agencies that do so many things for hospitals, for infrastructure. And also, when you look at what the OLG did here in Ontario, for instance, in the last year, $2 billion for the province, but part of what they're mandated to do is give at least $40 million of that went towards responsible gambling, went towards some of those initiatives that you just don't have with these offshore sports books.
Offshore. It's an interesting series, and thank you for telling us about it. So part one today online, all about the extent of offshore gaming and why Canadians are betting offshore, and you've just gone through that so clearly for us, and then on for the next couple of days as well. So Jamie, thank you very much. Direct your attention to the online series. There it is, that legal gray zone that is attracting so many billions of Canadian dollars. CBCSports.ca for you to read.